All right, welcome back. Episode 3, not from Chicago, but close enough. I'm your host, Tassos alongside fellow host and business partner here, Victor Simononik. Welcome, everybody, back to Not From Chicago, but Close Enough. Quick self-plug for our other shows. Our shows here, my show, the Hockey Morning Show, Good Morning Hockey. I do that solo, so go check that out if you are a hockey fan. And Sully does a show, Betting the House, every Tuesday and Thursday live on YouTube and available everywhere else afterward after he's done, wherever you get your podcast. So check those two out if either of those topics suit your fancy. If you are a Chicago Blackhawks fan, here for the Chicago history of all this, go listen to Chicago Hockey Radio. Me, Lee Grossman, and Justin Lynch hold down the fort there. We'll do a history of the Chicago Blackhawks one day on this podcast. And have both those guys on, but give those guys a shout. Subscribe to the YouTube, Chicago Hockey Radio. You can find it at the bottom of this YouTube channel that you're on, Alithio Networks. Click subscribe on that one too. Means a lot. Leaving 5-star rating and reviews on these shows, following us on Instagram, whatever you guys choose to do, it helps us out tremendously. So we really appreciate that. Today we're going to dig into Earth, Wind & Fire, one of my favorite bands of all time. Should be a fun episode. We're going to talk a little bit about some other stuff before then, but pumped for the Earth, Wind & Fire conversation. We watched a little British documentary about it beforehand, which was kind of interesting that the British documentary of an American band was the most clicked on thing on YouTube. But it was good. It was good. They did a good job of telling the story and stuff we already kind of knew a little bit and did some research on and watched some other videos. And Earth, Wind & Fire is awesome. I mean, they're just like a ton of fun. They funk, disco, like all that kind of stuff. I know I'm rambling here, Sully, but yeah, I don't know. Pump for a good topic. Should be a fun one. We were gonna do Halloween. I couldn't make it through an episode, so and it also wasn't that great of a topic either. So we are going to be doing that, or no, we're not going to be doing Halloween.
Yeah, no, that's
we're not going to be
past.
doing it. We're doing Earth, Wind & Fire right now instead of Halloween. And yeah, I don't know what we got next. Do we want to? Yeah, we can tease next week's topic. Prohibition in Chicago is the next topic we're going to do. So that's kind of the deal. Subscribe to our other shows or subscribe to this network and the Chicago Hockey Radio on YouTube. It helps us out a lot. And following us on Instagram, if you have one and you are listening to this, you guys are amazing that do it too. We see you guys that do it, so it means a lot. Yeah, that's why we plug ourselves, because people do it when we do it. So we will continue to do it. All right, Sully, how are we feeling? What do you want to talk about?
Yeah, I was just doing a little research as we were getting prepped for this. Some notable things that happened over this past, what would be the weekend when this comes out. On Sunday, this past Sunday, November 10th, that was the 55th anniversary of the debut of Sesame Street, which I thought was pretty interesting.
We're going right into Sesame Street.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, just that kind of.
Were you a Sesame Street guy growing up?
A little bit from what I remember. But I honestly don't remember how much just sitting in front of the TV I had at that point, because I was pretty
Did you miss it? You missed it?
I think I might have missed it. Yeah.
Yeah.
To be honest, I think I just was
I
on
think
that
I caught
edge.
the tail end of the Sesame Street.
Yeah.
They still go. Like, they're still going.
No, yeah.
They still make stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of led me down a rabbit hole of some stuff.
Any connection to Chicago?
Just a little bit, which kind of leads me into this second point, because she made a couple of the songs for Sesame Street, but Ella Jenkins, who was renowned as the first lady of children's music, she passed away also on the 10th at 100. You know, 70-year career.
Nice tie-in.
Yeah, hundreds of songs recorded, including her classic You Sing a Song, I'll Sing a Song. She also contributed, like I said, to Sesame Street and Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
Cool.
And in 2004, she received a Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award for it, which was pretty cool. And the last and third thing I saw on the 10th, which I don't know is weirdly, those two at least were coincidental. This last one, not really. But 1975, the freighter SS Edmund Fitzgerald sank in Lake Superior. Still the largest ship to sink there to date. Apparently there was a huge storm somehow in Lake Superior with like hurricane-like winds, I guess. Not really sure. How that, looking back on it today, that doesn't really make sense. I've never heard of a hurricane in the Great Lakes.
Neither have I. No. Okay, so I wanted to ask you why guys like meme about the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald. Like, why is that an internet meme a little bit? And also, like, you have to shout out Gordon Lightfoot. And maybe it is the Gordon. It might be the Gordon Lightfoot song about.
It definitely is.
The wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald is why people like to,
to make jokes and make some memes about it.
Yeah.
And then, I've seen so many today. It's just like the song with pictures of the ship.
Gordon Lightfoot's amazing, though. His work is just one of the coolest original Canadian like folk artists like that. One of the most like well recognized outside of what I mean, outside of his sphere. Incredible work. He died not too long ago. So when did he die? Look up when Gordon Lightfoot died, because I feel like it was like maybe within the last 2 years, I want to say, that he passed. But
Jesus,
you didn't. I thought you would have had it right there. No,
May 1st, 2023.
Yeah. So this was like a little over a year and a half ago that Gordon Lightfoot passed away too. So R.I.P. to a legend. Honestly, it was really good. Love his music. I like that kind of stuff. Like people like to meme about it, like the sea shanties. Although I think it's like when something.
It's more like folky than like sea shant. You know what I mean?
Like I feel like people started listening to sea shanties like as a joke, and then they were like, "Oh, some of these are actually like catchy and good." And
I definitely agree.
Yeah, I think it started as like a joking around thing.
For like when I'm driving late at night, I always listen to sea shanties because there's just something about them that like gets me going, and I just like won't. Like I'll be able to stay awake when I'm driving super late at night, if I'm tired,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's weird. It's like, okay, boop.
It's in your bones.
Yeah. Probably, bro.
It's in your bones.
It probably is.
To fare the seas.
Just when there's nothing else going on, gotta have it going, I don't know.
So, okay. So I have a couple of topics that I brought to the table today.
Yeah, go ahead.
Which one do you want to start with? Do you want to start with the Amtrak to Florida? Do you want to start with the museum days, or do you want to start with the weather? Because I want to have a weather conversation with you.
I guess let's go weather, Amtrak. What was the last one? Museum days.
Yeah. All right. So the weather one, it was just like, when do you think it's going to snow for the first time?
Dude, I was thinking about that, and I was thinking about bringing that up to you too about a possible discussion.
When do you think it's going to snow?
I was out of the country last year, so I don't know. What time last year did it start snowing around here?
I don't know. I feel like it was like mid to late November.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say maybe right after Thanksgiving, but before, like clearly before Christmas.
But I feel like there was a year recently, like maybe not last year, but maybe it was 2 or 3 years ago, that it snowed on Halloween too.
Yeah.
Like I remember it snowing as early as Halloween.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
What do you think though? Because it's kind of nice out still.
Oh, it's very nice out.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna get through Thanksgiving before it starts snowing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me too. We'll see.
But I don't think it'll be like.
Not that you and I are super meteorologists.
Nice. Yeah. No idea. We haven't looked at a radar or any prediction charts or anything. We're just going off.
We're just two dudes talking about the weather right now.
Yeah. I don't think it'll be super long after though. I think it'll be maybe first early couple days of December.
I've seen like a couple crazy winners here though since I moved.
Yeah.
Like, first of all, this is year 7 or 8 now since I moved here. So I've moved here fall of 2017. So I think this is going on year 7.
You got here right as that like polar vortex came, right?
That was like, that was like my first or second year here. I think
yeah.
it was my second year here when that happened.
I was gonna say, I think that was the
2018.
we had
the
one
winter.
day, and that was the only day I've ever had at my high school. I went to a K-12, so I was there since before first grade. I think that was the one time I.
All right, so camera died. We're back. I think we were talking about the weather and when you thought it was going to snow, and I don't think you. Oh, we said after Thanksgiving.
Yeah, like early December, late November, early December-ish. I think we said.
Okay, so let's talk about the Amtrak then.
Yeah.
Okay, so the Amtrak begins a limited time only Floridian line. It is a train, I guess, that takes you directly from Chicago to Miami.
Well, not really
Directly is a
misnomer.
Directly is a bit of a stretch. Stops in Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Washington, D.C., Raleigh, Columbia, Jacksonville, Orlando, and Tampa. Will take 48 hours to travel from Chicago to Miami, according to the website of Amtrak. Yeah, I don't know. The route was created by combining the existing Capital Limited line, which runs from Chicago to Washington, D.C., and the Silver Star, which runs along the East Coast and travels down to Miami. So I think that's kind of cool. It would be cooler, I think, if it were a bit more direct, straight down to Florida. But yeah, I don't know. I kind of like the idea of it. I don't know that, and I want to ask you if you would like actually take something like this. I don't know that I would. But maybe I would. I just don't know why it wouldn't be easier to take a flight. So
I mean, I think.
Sorry,
I mean,
I'm also muting your mic because we're in the same room, so they're both like picking up on each other. So like I'm muting yours while
you're talking.
Yeah. And vice versa. So
yeah, I mean, I've taken it from Chicago to New York before when my brother was going to Cooperstown. And then when I went, I just drove with some buddies.
Coach seats start at $100 and private rooms are available starting at $700. The route will only be available for a limited time. So $700 for a private room. I wonder how many people that fits comfortably. Right? You could look it up. I mean, I could look it up a little bit too. Great podcasting here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know that I would take it.
The bedroom is about 45 and a half square feet and can accommodate 2 adults. Some bedrooms can be combined to create a suite for 4 people. But I don't know if they have different ones. Like they have a roomette. Roomette is a 3.6 by 6.6 foot and can accommodate 2 adults. They all have 2 beds, 2 seats, a fold down table, and outlets. Then they have family rooms. I don't know if this is just, it might depend on, because it's a limited time, they only offer one of them rather than all of these different ones.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. They seem a little suspicious. It seems like you don't even get really a shower or anything like that.
I mean, the thought is it's like it's 48 hours. You're just kind of...
Yeah, you don't even need it.
You're sticking with it. Yeah. Either you're working on the train or you're...
Yeah.
You're probably like a mix of working and screwing around.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
I know they had something that kind of went... You could go from Chicago to all the way up to Minneapolis. Or maybe it's St. Paul. Maybe one of the two. Both. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know if that was a limited time thing for Amtrak or what. Yeah.
And I'm all for enhancing the train system in like the train network in the US. And I think we already kind of have all these railroads, right?
Yeah.
So I think that would be cool if transportation was more standard and like if people were doing it more, then they would put more into it.
Yeah,
right.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
But it's not right now. Like you could just like fly to
well,
Florida.
I think we also like I don't
and
know.
it would take you 3 hours.
Yeah, I don't know the exact history. I think we used to do that. It just but car companies were incentivizing the government so much at the time when it was like I don't know what the dates or anything, so don't quote me, but basically it just became more beneficial for the government to make roads because the car companies were giving them so much money to basically keep passengers off the railroads. If that makes sense.
Yeah. But I would take it if it were more of a standardized thing.
Yeah.
But it's really not.
Yeah.
So why would I take it? Right? Like it's going to take me 48 hours.
Yeah. Well, that's because it goes all the way up to the west.
Well, because there's not
Eastern
enough.
coast.
There's not enough of a demand for it.
Yeah. Well,
right?
yeah, and it's probably just like there's not enough demand to go all the way down through straight.
But like I would take it if it were straight.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, or if I had 3 months to burn that I didn't have work where I could just travel, fuck it. I don't care. I'd like to see all those places anyways.
Yeah.
You could do a day stop in each of those places.
But it's not like running enough trains where you get to stop for like a day.
I get what you're saying.
It's stopping for like a few minutes.
Yeah, and they just don't have enough people to do it where they're running a lot of them at once. Probably. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I get what you're saying.
But I would, like I'm very pro train. I am pro train.
Yeah. If we can, especially if you can find a way to not make it 2 days.
Yeah, I mean 2 days isn't that bad.
Or like make it a bullet train of some kind,
Driving to Chicago from Miami to Chicago is probably 24 hours.
Really?
You have to stop. Like no human being should really drive 24 hours straight.
Yeah, fair. I mean, is it really that much further than like Mississippi? I mean, I guess, yeah. Yeah, it's pretty far south, right? Because I drove my younger brother to Oxford back when I was dropping him off at Ole Miss. Did the drive back.
Florida itself is so long too, and you're talking about going to Miami, which is all the way at the bottom.
Yeah, fair.
More or less.
Fair.
Yeah. So I think it would be I'm all for this, but we gotta see. The other thing I had was Chicago Free Museum Days, full list for November and December. I'm not going to read this. You can find this on NBC Chicago's staff website. This is by their staff, so credit to them. But I'm definitely going to go check out some of these. I don't know, like the Art Institute. I love the Art Institute. We might like pseudo include some of these museums in some episodes, depending on like there's some architecture topics we want to talk about. There, maybe a certain museum or two will make its way into like having a full episode. I don't know. Maybe museums is just an episode one day. We'll see kind of what the people enjoy and how this podcast goes. But Art Institute, there's a bunch of free days, a lot of Mondays. A lot of these are for Illinois residents. So I don't know actually what that means. Like maybe you do, because neither of us have Illinois driver's licenses, but we both are residents of Illinois for a long time. So I don't know what that means as far as, right? Like being allowed in some, because I've been allowed in the Art Institute for free sometimes, I feel like, where they, I've shown a student ID before and been like, oh, I live here. And they're like, yeah, okay. Adler Planetarium is Illinois residents visit free every Wednesday from 4 to 10. So you have to reserve tickets in advance, but yeah, pretty cool. Free Chicago Botanic Garden is free November 4th through the 8th, and then the 11th and the 12th, and also December 9th through the 15th. So that's pretty cool. And then Chicago History Museum has a bunch of free days. This website is great. I'm not going to read through all of them, but it's pretty solid. It's a pretty solid collection of fun museums. I've been to some of these. I haven't been to some of them. The Field Museum is great. The DuSable Black History Museum is really great. I've enjoyed my time there. Yeah, there's a ton of good ones. I have not been to the Swedish American Museum. Have you? No.
No, I haven't. I mean, it's up.
Sorry, I didn't mean to throw it over to you like that.
No, we're good. We're good. It's up in Andersonville. Like we walked
Yeah.
up. That was kind of almost right where we walked to the edge of, and then kind of called it and headed back.
Yeah.
I have not. I've seen a lot of stuff for it though. And
Can I be honest? Have
Yeah.
you been to the Shed?
I have not.
Neither have I. Maybe we got to go to the Shed Aquarium
Maybe.
together.
Yeah. Jonah talks about it all the time.
Is he a fan of the aquarium?
He is.
Yeah. We'll
I
get
don't know.
Jonah
I
on
just
this
feel like
podcast,
it's
too,
kind of
at some point.
aquatic life confined up is a hot
Yeah, it's
topic.
tough.
It's always a hot
yeah.
topic lately, especially with all the SeaWorld stuff and
Yeah, I think there's a line, right? I don't know.
yeah, I mean it's different, but like is how much different is kind of a whole nother
Yeah, but
that we don't need to get
Shed.
into.
Maybe we go to Shed one day.
I'm down.
All right, should we get into some Earth, Wind, and Fire stuff? We're like 20 minutes in. We could get into some Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Sure.
All right. Do you want to kick it off on the Earth, Wind, and Fire? Like I'm pumped we're doing this.
Yeah,
Like this topic means a lot to me. Definitely one of like the early. I'm wearing a shirt.
Chicago.
For those watching on YouTube, I'm wearing a shirt that is. I got this shirt at a when I was a freshman at DePaul in the fall of 2017. They had just opened up the Wintrust Arena where the men's basketball team now plays, and there's a lot of other events going on. And when they opened that up, they did a concert. Chicago did a concert there. A lot of the original members, I think, went to DePaul, and then they ended up dropping out. They weren't in the music program, though, I'm pretty sure. So they did a concert. It was awesome. It was so much fun. I think they had a couple of the original members, but I don't know that it was a lot of them. I went with my college roommate Andrew at the time. Shout out Andrew. And yeah, it was great. They rocked it off. But there was a cool video on YouTube of Chicago and Earth, Wind, and Fire performing 25 or 6 to 4, which is a great song. And cool story behind the name of that song. You should look that up if you don't know, and I won't say it now. But time signatures, all that stuff. Right? So great song, cool, like awesome performance on YouTube. That is super cool. And yeah, it just, Earth, Wind, and Fire. I mean, I don't know. I grew up playing a lot of the music, DePaul pep band, right? Trying to think, like high school pep band. We played a lot of Earth, Wind, and Fire. Like that was just like it's part of like the standard music. Some of there's like some weather report stuff that we played a lot of, and but it's definitely one of those bands, and everybody knows September, right? And you could tell in one interview that Sully and I watched, they were asked about September in arguably one of the more like tone deaf interviews I've probably seen with like a reporter who didn't know a whole lot about Earth, Wind, and Fire, just interviewing them. But maybe it had a lot of views for that very reason. But so. Yeah, it's just you could tell that that's their. I told Sully that's their Jimmy Buffett Margaritaville. That you could tell.
Oh yeah. Where it's just kind of like the eye roll. We've talked about this, and any question you could ever kind of think of, almost they've answered it, and it's all just answering the same question over and over again to them, especially in relation to that song. Because it's just been so distinct and stand out-ish, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't think you can really. So the conversation of Earth, Wind, and Fire kind of starts with Maurice White. He was from Memphis. His mom moved to Chicago. He ended up joining her later on.
Followed her, yeah.
His brother was a bass player. Grew up like in the bass scene, in the jazz scene here in Chicago.
I thought his brother was the one who went to Memphis. And that's kind of where...
Maurice was born in Memphis.
That's what. Yeah,
Maurice was born in Memphis.
Right.
So
and he came later.
Yeah, he did. He came to Chicago later. Kind of their music blended a little bit. They started making a little bit of music together. But he was born in 1941. Lived with his grandmother for a little while. He moved to Chicago, studied at the Chicago Conservatory of Music. Played drums on like different things here, local nightclubs and stuff like that. Joined different groups. His brother's name is Verdine, who is still alive and still with us.
And still touring.
Is he really still touring with Earth, Wind, and Fire?
Yep.
Really?
Yeah, him and who he wasn't an original member, but what was his name? Bailey. Forgot his first name. Philip Bailey, who kind of revitalized and revamped it in '72. But before we jump ahead, but yeah, he's another well-known part of that famous Earth, Wind, and Fire group.
Okay.
But they're still touring and everything.
I had myself muted there for a second. So he was doing like session drumming stuff. He was on some cool music too that they mentioned in this documentary. I forgot, but he was on some other people's stuff as a drummer, and joined Wade Flemings and Don Whitehead. They were kind of songwriting quite a bit, and they signed a contract with Capitol Records. They were called the Salty Peppers. They had kind of a hit. It was called La La Land, but
La La Time.
Oh, La La Time. Yeah,
I believe.
Yeah. You're right. And then he went to L.A.
So they put out a second one.
Oh, okay.
Was called Yeah. And it kind of not really flopped. It underperformed. So Maurice kind of took his stuff and moved to L.A., bringing Sherry Scott, the singer, and the percussionist Yaakov Ben Israel from Chicago with him. And that's kind of when he invited his brother Verdine to join him in L.A. as a bass guitar player, bassist. He said yes, followed him to LA, and then shortly after, the band signed with Warner Brothers Records. So a little bit about the name, which I think is a little bit of a fun fact that Tassos and I kind of found out. So the name Earth, Wind, and Fire kind of comes from Maurice White's astrology sign. He's a Sagittarius, which is associated with fire, earth, and air, but not water. So he kind of renamed the band into what we think of today when we hear Earth, Wind, and Fire. After that, and back when they were in LA, he held some more additions, added Michael Beale on the guitar, Chester Washington on the reeds, Leslie Drayton on the trumpet and arranger, and Alex Thomas on the trombone to form this 10-man lineup, which I thought was kind of cool and helped create that jazz fusion group original vision that he had, but kind of expanding then into like soul, R&B, funk, kind of other genres.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think. So the Salty Peppers, first of all, great band name. Mm-hmm. Salty Peppers. Sorry that didn't work out. Like that, somebody should use that though right now as a band name. I think that's a great band name. First of all, I just want to say this about Earth, Wind, and Fire. Like nobody makes music like them nowadays, and that's a shame because once they got going and like really hit their stride, there was not a lot of music that looked more fun. And we were watching like old music videos and stuff of these guys, and just looked like a lot of fun and creative music. And these guys, you realize it was the 70s and where disco, like these guys were on the forefront of disco, but like hated being called disco music, but they could go out there and create the coolest disco music out there that everybody wanted to listen to. That was really part of the tradition, and those guys just crushed it. So yeah, the name, you mentioned the name too. That's kind of funny. I mean, it's just like every element besides water, right?
Yeah.
Trying to think, like the first album was self-titled. They released that in 1971. Got number 24 Billboard, certified gold in France, which is pretty cool. I don't know what else. What do you, anything you want to add?
No, I mean just kind of right after that. That's when I was talking about
the need
earlier.
of love. The Need of Love
yeah,
came
but
second.
yeah, but it was also like in '72. Maurice kind of revamped that 10-man lineup again. You know, adding flute saxophonist Ronnie Laws, rhythm guitarist Roland Bautista, keyboardist Larry Dunn, vocalist Philip Bailey, who we were talking about before, who still is around and performing with them, and percussionist Ralph Johnson. Um, this core group then kind of became the key identity of what we know of as Earth, Wind, and Fire. You know, that because then they, in '75, That's the Way of the World kind of broke through and put them on the map as a group, like Shining Star,
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
one of their best selling, obviously.
Need of Love is a great album too, though. Gotta be.
When was that? What year?
That was 71.
Okay, that was so it was self-titled, and then that was the second one.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I mean, everything they did was so good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if you wanted to like keep going. Do you want me to keep going?
Sure, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I don't know. They released. Let me see here. They had The Last Days in Time, and then it was Head to the Sky. And then it was Open Our Borders, or it was Head to the Sky, and then it was Open Our Eyes. In 1974, that came out. Then it was okay. So, Another Time. That was their first 2 studio album. Was released by Warner Brothers. Yeah, that one had. I'm trying to think. Oh, it was number 1 on the soul charts too.
Yeah, and that was around the time
That was a little bit before that.
That I think was their last. Well, no, Another Time.
Another Time was their
last
Warner Brothers
album, because then they changed to Columbia, which is pretty sick.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. Making that jump, that was really big for them. So, That's the Way of the World had that Shining Star on it, though. I'm looking like awesome. I'm trying to think. I'm gonna let Sully gather his thoughts here for a second. Top five Earth, Wind, and Fire songs. My personal top 5. I thought about this. I swapped some songs on this list. Even today, in the process of just because putting them 1 to 5 was tough. So number 1, I have Power. Number 2, and this, it is an Earth, Wind, and Fire song, but Gotta Get You Into My Life. It's a Beatles song, but their rendition is awesome. So that's number 2. 3 is Fantasy. 4 is Sing a Song, and 5 is Serpentine Fire. With Shining Star and Let's Groove just missing the cut. Let's Groove and Shining Star just missing the cut. Let's Groove was tough to keep out. I have to say.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's got to be in there. That Boogie Wonderland got to be in there.
Yeah.
Obviously September, but that's just because. Yeah, well, it's good. It's fantastic, but everyone knows that. I feel like. I mean, I didn't know very many until you were. I knew most of the ones just because I had a 70s and 80s love for a little bit.
It was cool, and so the September song. So September came out on their first greatest hits record that they put out, I think in 75. If you wanna, but it might have been a little bit later than that. But they put it out, and it just kind of showed everybody how good they actually were and what kind of discography that they had. And they had put a couple of unreleased tracks on there. 78, yeah. So I was close. So they in 78 they put out that thing, and it had September on it, and September kind of blew up. And I don't know if you know what else was on it. I can't. I don't have it right in front of me, but they put that out, and everybody kind of loved it, and all of their songs, they put all together all the best collection of what they thought they had, and It really showed everybody that these guys were the best. And I said it earlier, just like how innovative they were with some of the visuals. Like, yes, the Beatles clearly played a large part in the establishment of what they were doing, and a lot of other Black American music here that was going on. A lot of the jazz stuff, a lot of the, jazz is like a big precursor to funk, which is what this was. And it was just cool. Like, these guys were all just like cool. Like, you even hear Verdine White talk now, and he is just like a cool guy. It's like, must have been so much fun, honestly, like touring, and they look like they had fun, like, but like good clean fun, honestly, that these guys were just creating stuff all the time. And it was more about just like, hey, like, let's make some new songs, right? Like, they put out so much music. It was like every year they would put out an album or two. Sometimes there were years where they put out 2 albums. And
I've got those 2 sides of that track if you want.
Yeah.
So on the first side, it's "Gotta Get You Into My Life" from Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band.
Yeah,
which is
the Beatles,
George Martin, and a retro band, but covering the Beatles. Fantasy from All in All, 1977. Can't Hide Love from Gratitude, 75. Love Music, which was one of the previously unreleased. So that was one of the new songs.
Okay.
Getaway from Spirit, 1976. And then the other side, so side 2 was That's the Way of the World, from That's the Way of the World, 1975.
And that one, that was the movie, right? That they thought was going to be a flop? Or no?
I don't think
Did I get this mixed up? I might have gotten this mixed up here. I'm trying to think. So they did a couple of movies, right? They did the soundtrack to a couple of movies. They did one that was like a big...
That's the Way the World was, actually, the one for the movies. You were right. I apologize.
That was which one? But wasn't there another one that was a movie too? So That's the Way of the World. Hold on, let me pull this up. I want to make sure that I have this right. So the plot: in the midst of working slavishly to complete the debut album of the group, Buckmaster is forced to put their project on the back burner in favor of a new singing to A chord, the Pages. So yeah, okay. What were you gonna say? Or nothing?
No, I'm sorry. You caught me a little off guard with that throwback.
Well, yeah. All right, pause.
Yeah.
All right, so we took a pause to double check our facts here and make sure that we were doing right by the podcast listeners and by ourselves as far as credibility goes. And so they were in 2 movies.
Mm-hmm. Their song was in one.
Okay,
they were in one, another one.
Gotcha.
Yes, yeah. So their song "Shining Star" was originally included in the That's the Way of the World movie that starred Harvey Keitel, and was produced by Sig Shore, which is Superfly, I guess. With that, Shining Star glittered to #1 R&B for 2 weeks and hit #1 pop in early 75. It was obviously then included on their 1975 multi-platinum album, That's the Way of the World, is what they titled it. That held the #1 spot.
Yeah, they were in That's the Way of the World as the band called the group.
Okay. Well, I guess I was wrong then, too. So then they were both times as the band.
Yeah.
Because then the second one they're in is in 1978 Bee Gees / Peter Frampton movie, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. Still a mouthful, Jesus. That's when September came in, popped to #8 in early 78. So it was kind of cool.
So do you know what That's the Way the World is about?
I do not.
No, neither do I. I don't work. I I haven't watched the movie either, but yeah, apparently it's supposed to be like a story on everything that's wrong with music and the business of it, and yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, this quick summary says record executives want a highly regarded record producer to focus on a white pop act whom they feel has the sound America wants. To keep his creative integrity, producer Buckmaster carefully begins to fight the system from within.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's cool. I don't know. The other lead singer was Philip James Bailey. I feel like we should have talked about him a little bit more. I don't know. He was from Denver. He wasn't really from Chicago or Memphis or anything like that. He was from Denver, and all of these guys are. He is in the Songwriters Hall of Fame for what he did, but he was one of the vocalists. Also did some percussion stuff. Just was cool. Had a 4-octave vocal range, which is cool, and like that falsetto. All those guys had like a lot of those guys had really high voices that were that they used a lot. Like those guys put a lot of strain on their voices and did that. But just kind of cool. Like his influences were like Miles Davis and Coltrane and like a lot of the Motown stuff. They said in this documentary too. Stevie Wonder. These guys like Stevie Wonder and some of that. Songs in the Key of Life is honestly one of the best albums of all time, hands down. Just incredible stuff. But like, music is one of those things. It builds on itself, right? And over time, it's built on itself. And, Earth, Wind, and Fire is a big part of what has shaped modern music today in a lot of ways that a lot of people don't understand. And as far as like harmony and voices and funkiness and
I mean, I think they were definitely one of those. Sorry to just cut you off.
No,
they were
good.
Definitely one of those. And they might not have even done it first, but they're definitely one of the most famous for blending a bunch of different genres together. Where as opposed to just staying the course, doing what everyone else is doing, they were like, no, we're not going to do what sells. We're going to do what we think people want to hear, which I don't think you see a lot these days anymore.
Maurice White did so much. He was on, he composed on Barry Manilow's 1980 album Barry. He was on, he produced Barbra Streisand on her 1984 album Emotion. What else? There's a ton of really cool stuff.
Well, and I think that documentary that we watched that you talked about before with the British people, kind of said it pretty crystal clear that it was really interesting to see how they adapted as time went on, because they changed completely from between like 72 and 79 when they took out Boogie Wonder. They what is it when you put out an album? Release.
Yeah.
When you release an album. Yeah, so like when they released Boogie Wonderland, completely disco, completely different than what they had previously done. But it was still that combination of different genres that made them that successful, I think.
Yeah. That's where like their music was also called like fusion music. The actual word fusion, if you think about it, is like the putting together of different things, like the combination
of X amount of things,
right? So it is kind of cool that's where like some of these different musical genres meet and blend together. And it's so funky. Like they're like, it's so good. I don't know how people don't listen to Earth, Wind, and Fire and just get up and start dancing. Yeah. Right?
It was fantastic when we were listening to it earlier.
Oh yeah. Sully and I were listening to Earth, Wind, and Fire to get pumped up for this podcast a little bit. I'm trying to think. There were a few other thoughts I had here. I mean, Maurice White, like I just said, like Maurice White was a guy. Like and before we talk about
how his role sort of changed. You know, again, once things changed when disco declined in the 80s, they still released, like Faces, Rays, which included Let's Groove, which was an insane album that song they have, I think is in the top 5 personally, but White moved to more of a behind the scenes role, which we later kind of.
You got to talk into the microphone.
You're talking to me. I'm sorry. I thought you were saying you wanted to say it. I apologize. So he sort of moved into a behind the scenes role. Philip Bailey kind of pursued a solo career alongside the work that they were doing with Earth, Wind and Fire. And, as the 80s progressed, it kind of came out that White was actually diagnosed with Parkinson's, which was sort of that reason that he was limiting a lot of his time on stage presence.
Somebody else we should probably do an episode on at some point is Quincy Jones, who just passed away a little over a week ago from when we are recording this exactly. But we a little over a week and 2 days after this comes out. But Quincy Jones just passed away, and similar like beast in the music industry, where people don't understand that like the music industry didn't go for like 50 years if Quincy Jones wasn't operating the machine and getting after it and doing his thing and being who he was as a connector, and he did it until he died. Absolutely. So that deserves a whole nother episode, but I don't know. But that speaks to that idea though of like how impactful this was, and all these guys were, as far as like the music and the songs and the albums. And imagine like a greatest hits album is the one that like goes quintuple platinum, right? That was it went
five times platinum.
Unreal.
So like I said, they all kind of took a sort of hiatus in the middle 1980s. They came back together and reunited in 87
because they had an album that flopped.
And it was like, White had his Parkinson's. It was sort of before that, but it was, he still felt it, and he was, reducing his amount of time on
But
stage.
Electric Universe wasn't that
popular,
right? I think according to their standards, to like
fair. Okay.
I think it fell a little bit below their standards. And I don't know. But they all did individual stuff too, like all that other individual work and work with other people and work with other artists. And Verdine White and did stuff. Ralph Johnson produced The Temptations on their album Truly For You. Verdine White promoted go-go bands such as Trouble Funk and EU during that time. So
so they came back all together, and they had another successful album, Touch the World, November late 87, getting to number 3 on the top R&B album charts, number 33 on the top 200. It was also certified US Gold, which was kind of cool to see. And then 88, that was volume 2 of the best of Earth, Wind and Fire. Again, getting certified US Gold. If you want to take over.
No. I mean, I could. It's just like all the Earth, Wind and Fire stuff. I will have to say, like, they lose me at like 1982. Like that's when you kind of lost me with the Earth, Wind and Fire
before the breakup or before the split. Is what you're saying. I kind of agree with that.
That's where all the good stuff kind of was pre that. And I think the doc we watched, and I've listened to some of the newer Earth, Wind and Fire stuff. It's good. It's funky. It's fresh. It's just almost like it's about as close to a cover band without being a cover band as you could get. And I'm not a fan of cover bands. I'm not like a cover band kind of guy. I'm sorry to anybody out there that's like a really big cover band person, but I am not a cover band enjoyer. So I would rather listen to the real thing on speakers as opposed to Like I would rather hear somebody make their own music, right? And see what they got. And especially like cover bands that are like only one artist. You know what I'm talking about? That it's like a Bruce Springsteen cover band, right?
Yeah. It's like, okay.
Like that, you're only playing one person's music.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, but it almost feels like an Earth, Wind, and Fire cover band right now. Earth, Wind, and Fire feels like an Earth, Wind, and Fire cover band.
No, I definitely agree. I think it's sort of like a step. I don't want to say, but that has such a negative. You know what I mean? I don't know.
These guys like dominated music for a little while too, though.
Fair.
Yeah.
Fair.
So it's just, and you don't really see that a lot now, like with acts. Do you? Am I wrong? Like, I feel like a lot of bands, like, the other part of it too is I don't think there was like a bitter kind of boiling of tensions at any point with Earth, Wind, and Fire, right?
I don't think so. Yeah.
It seemed like everything was always pretty amicable between those guys, and no matter who they brought in or what was going on, it was all like business, kind of like, I don't know, in a weird way. It was all just like kind of the way it was, and Maurice was kind of running the show, and you know, I don't know. It never felt like that was like kind of the issue there, where, you know, a lot of bands like just kind of like break up and that's the end of it, right? Or there's like a big falling out between bands. We were talking about Daft Punk earlier, because Daft Punk was on the Apple Podcasts, used to promoting our own shows. Apple Music has like collections of songs from the artists. So when you're looking at Earth, Wind, and Fire, there's an album called Songs Inspired by Earth, Wind, and Fire, and it was a bunch of different weird stuff. But one of the ones was a Daft Punk song, and they broke up, right? That was a pretty public thing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of acts break up. So I think that's maybe why. And also the band I'm wearing the shirt for, Chicago, talking about same thing. I think they still tour, right? And still do something. And I would be very surprised if they had any of the original members. I doubt it. So
there are other groups kind of like
I'll look
that,
it up.
right?
I'll
There's
look it
like
up.
maybe not the Rolling Stones anymore, but like I feel like maybe the Grateful Dead does that too. You know, obviously it mixes in and out, people in and out. Yeah. But I totally hear what you're saying otherwise about the after 82. You know, they kind of lose your interest.
Yeah.
Just because, and I'm even looking at the Grammy Awards and like all their awards pages, and you know, at least for Grammys wise, they go from almost 50% winning Grammys to only having any nominations with the exception of the Lifetime Achievement Award in 2016. You know, where it's like clearly like they got in 26. The one they won in 2016 was because they won all the other ones before and up to 82, if that makes sense. I don't know.
Okay, so I'm looking at a list of bands that perform with no original members. I don't know a lot of these bands. I know a couple of them. There is Leonard Skinner. There is Quiet Riot. Little River Band is a band that currently performs without any of their original members. Blackfoot, Blood, Sweat, and Tears, Opeth, Judas Priest. Interesting. All right. A lot of metal bands. That seems to be kind of a thing of like, okay, interesting. Foreigner. Interesting. All right. This is according to Rolling Stone. An article written by Rolling Stone in 2024. Here we go. Foreigner. The Platters, Drifters, and Coasters. The Four Tops. The Grassroots. Leonard Skinner made this list. Blood, Sweat, and Tears made this list. Iron Butterfly. Molly Hatchet. Blackfoot. The Ventures. The Spinners. No mention of Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Well, that's because that's because
are they still currently touring though? Oh, I guess he's still a part of it.
And,
yeah.
you know, Bailey's still there too. I don't know how they define
Original
original members, you know. If it's both right when Earth, Wind, and Fire was renamed to it, and
You know what they call that? Or guess what Rolling Stone is calling that? A band that performs without any original members? A zombie band.
that's a good name for it.
Yeah. That kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. Well, how many Grammys did Earth, Wind, and Fire win? Do you know? Did I just put you on the spot again?
No, I've got it right here. I think it's. Why does this?
Oh, solid.
Seven awards from 19 nominations. It's giving me two different numbers.
So they went 7 for 19. Oh, you're wrong.
Yeah.
This says 6.
Yeah, well, I don't know. The 7th is probably that Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award.
Gotcha.
Yeah, no.
They also won 4 American Music Awards out of 12 nominations.
Yep. They got a Lifetime Achievement Award to the Black Entertainment Television Awards, BET Awards.
They have a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
Yeah.
Got that in 1995. They're in the Songwriters Hall of Fame.
It's on this. Oh, I'm an idiot. I was about to say it's on a separate sidewalk, but I'm dumb. Never mind. I just misread what this was saying. Sorry. Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2000. They got inducted.
They got then Songwriters Hall of Fame in 2010.
I just said that right before.
Fuck.
Good to know you're paying attention,
My
brother.
bad.
Sully is just chugging along on this pod right now.
Yeah.
Running on fumes. Vocal Group Hall of Fame in 2003 too. So, Soul Train Music Awards 5 times. So, only won once. That's absurd. Also, a band too got credit later in their career for their achievements that happened earlier.
Yeah.
Like, definitely people were late to the party.
Yeah,
Like, they were popular when they were putting out music, but they definitely also
became revolutionary.
Yeah.
Afterwards.
Yeah.
Like it was we needed to look back to
It wasn't a thing that was totally, truly appreciated while it was happening.
Yeah.
But it's since gotten a lot of steam and recognition.
Yeah. Jinx 10. Oh, me a Coke.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what else we got here. What else you got?
After the 2000, so in 2004, they actually joined forces with said band you were talking about before, Chicago, for a highly successful co-headlining tour.
Oh, so they did a tour together.
Yeah, in 2004.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and then I'm not sure when their last tour was, to be honest.
But Maurice White wasn't on that tour, correct?
No,
Okay.
I don't think so. But I think he was still helping in the background.
Gotcha.
And then, unfortunately, in 2016, Maurice White passed away. But Earth, Wind, and Fire definitely continue to honor his legacy. You know, Bailey and Verdine White, his brother, and actually Ralph Johnson are all still performing in his memory, which is really cool to see. You know, they're all similar age as him.
Yeah. I think it's cool how they turn jazz into really exciting funk music. And, you know, funk was like a precursor to disco, which is a precursor to so on and so forth. And, you know, this came right out of the civil rights movement too. And it was music that was meant to uplift as opposed to, you know, make sad and pondering things and
push people down and separate people.
Yeah.
You know, especially at a time where it was so
divisive.
Thank you.
Yeah.
This us or them mentality kind of, which was not a great time in our country's history.
Yeah. So, really awesome music, and I love Earth, Wind, and Fire. That's totally one of my favorite bands of all time. Yeah, they won their first Grammy for Shining Star. Did you say that? No?
I did not.
No, but I thought that was kind of cool. So, but Maurice White, a legend, for maybe doesn't get recognized nearly in the vein of Quincy Jones, but totally made an imprint on music much in the same vein as a Quincy Jones. So, yeah, fun to learn more about him in this. That was cool.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts?
Not much. I know we didn't really talk about what gave them that distinctive sound. It was one of my kind of 10 fun fact points, whatever you want to call it. Maurice White actually introduced the African kalimba, which is a thumb piano, into the band's sound, which kind of gave a lot of their songs that distinct exotic vibe, and became a almost integral, significant signature instrument for them,
Yeah. The Beatles did that with different instruments too. They would go over to like Asia and pull all these different instruments out and put that in their music. And there's a lot of albums like that where they've gone and done that.
Yeah.
So, cool to see. Just a story of how music builds on itself, and that Chicago is one of the top music scenes in the world. And people come here to create and do their thing, just like we're doing here with these podcasts and this show itself. It's Sully and I are just hanging out, and we're working on trying to grow our brand. And what better way than just to sit down and create, right? And do something
and learn something too while we're at it.
Yeah.
At least at this week, more me than him, but us both in general.
Yeah. So, and that's what Chicago's all about. That's what the city is about. It's different, and we push the limits of each other, and we push the limits of creativity and what is standard and what is hip. And I don't know, Chicago is like always on the forefront of things that are cool, and right before they become cool with everybody else. I always stand by that Chicago is definitely a collection of pioneers here, and people.
It's definitely one of those central hubs that can push out content, or
people are pushing boundaries here.
Yeah, that's a good way to
say it.
It's
different. It's weird. It's like, I forgot if I said this. I think I might have said this on this podcast. But I went to go see Mount Joy at the Salt Shed. And, I think I might have said this on this podcast, but possibly. Maybe I didn't. But if I didn't, I will say it again. That they took songs that they'd played a bunch of times, right? Like Earth, Wind, and Fire. And they took a different spin on each song. And it was really fun and avant-garde and different. And just was like... it was fun. And that's what art's all about. And Chicago does that. And Chicago creates funky, fresh, just awesome music. And there's people out there doing the funk thing now still too, and there are fun bands. I have, friends in funk bands, and they're out doing the thing. I wish funk music would see a revitalization. Oh, catching Sully yawning. I'll switch the camera back on me.
Sorry about that, guys.
No, I would love to see funk catch a revitalization around the U.S.
No, I think it, and I think it'll be kind of slightly different than what we've seen from funk previously. It'll be that. People
are doing funk. I shouldn't because none of it's coming to my head right now, or they're not as big as Earth, Wind, and Fire. It doesn't mean that there aren't people still because there are people putting out funky music today. I shouldn't.
Yawning so much.
Oh, sorry. I can't even put the camera on you. All right, we should wrap the show. So we're gonna cut it. I don't know. Thanks for tuning in. If you made it this far, that was fun. Next week we're gonna do Prohibition in Chicago. So a little bit of a tease and
little bigger talk.
I don't know that we put Quincy Jones or Chicago the band. I don't know that we put Quincy Jones or Chicago the band on our big list of topics. So those are two definitely that we will hit at some point over the course of doing this podcast. And if you are, and these kind of did some good numbers on our first two episodes, low key, compared to our other shows. Shout out us, one. But also, if you're just like clicking here because you're enjoying the content or you might enjoy the topic, right? We're going to do a bunch of these, and, this show may come out at different times every week. We're going to try and stick to every Tuesday, but it might not be.
Might be every second Tuesday.
Yeah. So we're going to just like kind of put this out. But if you are listening, you got this far, please hit the subscribe button. Please leave 5 stars. Helps us out a lot. If you're an audio listener, please leave 5 stars. And if you're a video listener, like go cross sides. Like
and talk about it, bring it up. If someone
talk about it with a friend
wants either to know more about Chicago, the Blackhawks, because we've got shows.
We have a ton of shows.
Yeah.
And we're trying to make more content, but the more that people do the little things like hit the subscribe button, follow us on Instagram, all that stuff, it helps us. It helps us out a lot. So really appreciate it. Really appreciate it. We'll be back next week and we'll talk about that. And you could catch us on our own shows or some other stuff.
I'll see you fellow degenerate gamblers Tuesday for my amazing lines and picks and odds. See you there. Everyone else, if you want to make some money, tail me.
Yeah, and I got a post-game show tonight, and so tonight being Sunday, and morning show tomorrow, Monday through Friday. So guests lined up, and fun stuff happening. So and also post games Thursday and Saturday if you are a Hawks fan. So they play Seattle on Thursday in Seattle. I forgot who they play Saturday, but you can find us there. You can find us all there. Chicago Hockey Radio, massive shout out to those boys as well, putting the work in. Shout out Raven. Even though I'm the one sitting here right now recording this podcast, he will be the one editing it. So appreciate you, and we will be back next week. Subscribe.
Have a good one, fellas.